Well, hey guys, it's Mr. Schauber again, and welcome to my presentation on the atomic bomb and the end of World War II. What can you say, right? About how the war ends and the atomic bombs, and it just an amazing conclusion to the biggest war in recorded history, right? I mean, it's um, pretty crazy how this happened, and so kind of let's examine this. Let's look at how all this occurred. You probably recognize this guy. Albert Einstein, a Jewish physicist from Germany. He was visiting the United States in 1933 when Adolf Hitler came to power. And seeing the writing on the wall, Einstein did not return to Germany. He stayed in the United States and became a citizen in 1940. So on the eve of World War II, uh, he told President Roosevelt in a letter that a immensely powerful weapon, an atomic bomb, was possible, and that the Germans were at work on such a weapon, and that unless we beat them to it, that Adolf Hitler would have this weapon in his hands. And so, hearing that, President Roosevelt organized a secret commission to try to create this powerful weapon. And what Einstein suggested is that a a reaction needed to take place, um, an atomic reaction of where you would split the nucleus of an atom of a very volatile and powerful element like uranium or plutonium, and you would split that nucleus of that atom, and then you would have to create a controlled chain reaction of split nuclei to create an immense amount of force and energy, and then that energy could be used to, obviously to create a bomb. And so, I mean, my mind doesn't quite understand how this all works, right? I don't. This is beyond me. But Einstein did understand to some degree how it could work, and he told President Roosevelt about it, and Roosevelt, like I said, organized a group to try to achieve such a chain reaction. The secret group that was organized was called the Manhattan Project. Uh, this is the project to build the bomb. It started in 1942, and they worked and worked and worked, and obviously we know that they succeeded. But this project was top secret. I'll show you here where it was done and so forth. But this was a top secret project that nobody classified to the highest degree, and what they did was to change the world, no doubt about it. For better or worse, they changed the world. The man put in charge of the Manhattan Project was J. Robert Oppenheimer, and he oversaw the day-to-day operations of the work the scientists were doing. And obviously Roosevelt placed a tremendous amount of trust in this man to develop this bomb, and that's exactly what he did. The man who finally achieved a a, a successful controlled chain reaction of split nuclei, and they happened to be in uranium atoms, was Enrico Fermi, who was an Italian scientist working for us here in the US as part of the Manhattan Project. And by achieving this controlled chain reaction of split nuclei, obviously it opens the way for the atomic bomb. He's able to create, uh, through this, the energy and power needed to obviously to create a weapon unlike the world had anything the world had ever seen before. And so interesting that a German Jewish scientist and an Italian scientist were the guys who kind of had the idea and got the job done. The location where Fermi achieved his successful chain reaction was at the University of Chicago in secret laboratories. And I mean, crazy, right? Basically, they're working under people's feet They're working, under basically, where life is going on like nothing else is happening, right? Where kids are going to classes and classes are being taught by professors and underneath, so to speak, is uh, is the bomb being developed. And so it was, yeah, at the University of Chicago where this is done. Once the chain reaction was achieved by Enrico Fermi, then the scientists had to figure out, okay, how do we put this into a bomb? And they obviously had to create a bomb, and these bombs were very big. Okay, and we have to test this thing. We got to see how it works. We got to see exactly what this thing, if it's going to work at all, and if it does, what is it capable of doing? And so they had to pick a spot that was basically out in the middle of nowhere where they could test this bomb and pretty much nobody would know. You can imagine that, right? And so they chose the New Mexico desert, and it really is in the middle of nowhere. Okay. And on July 16th, 1945, while the U.S. We had defeated Nazi Germany by this time, but we were still trying to finish off Japan and defeat them. And so it was during that time that the atomic bomb is tested, and the results are staggering, unbelievable. Of course, there's this big mushroom cloud that goes up. This after this bright flash of light and the heat and the intensity, and eventually, the guys go out to check where the bomb went off, um, and the desert sand has turned to glass. Okay, at that area, and I mean, you talk about just this is unbelievable, right? And so um, we knew we were onto something, and we knew we had something that nobody else had, and this was the most powerful weapon in the world. And if you have the most powerful weapon in the world, you pretty much hold all the cards when it comes right down to it. So that was the first atomic bomb test, and those are the results. Well, in April of 1945, before the bomb is tested, Harry Truman became president. President Roosevelt passed away, and it was Harry Truman now that hears about this successful atomic bomb test, and he has to make the decision about what to do with the bomb concerning Japan. And so the question is, do we drop a bomb on Japan? Do we tell them about it and hopefully that scares them into surrendering? Do we perform a test bomb somewhere with Japanese leaders looking on so they can see what it's capable of? What do we do? And I mean, I can't imagine having to try to make that decision, and um, probably a lot of sleepless nights. But Harry Truman, of course, decided we are going to drop the bomb on Japan, and that should end the war. And so the decision was made to drop the first bomb on Hiroshima, August 6th, 1945. Uh, the results are devastating. About 140,000 people are killed in this atomic blast. And so when these bombs are dropped, uh, they're dropped from airplanes, and the idea is for them to explode, to blow up uh, a certain amount, of feet, basically a certain level off the ground. They're still in the air when they detonate. And so what happens is that blast, when they blow up, it causes so much heat and intensity and pressure uh, that all that is forced downward, or at least most of it's forced downward, and it's just this huge sweeping downward force that will go will go down and then sweep out, and everything, of course, in its path is destroyed, uh, and oftentimes evaporated, right? If you're near the epicenter there, but so that heat and pressure goes down and then sweeps out and then curls back up, so to speak, and goes into what we see as the mushroom cloud. That mushroom cloud is kind of the, you know, it's proof that the bomb went off, right, and uh, that it did its job. And so I'm going to show you some pictures from Hiroshima, but and some of them are crazy. You know, they're gruesome at times, but um, this is just unbelievable to the Japanese people. They cannot fathom that we have such a weapon, and you know, what are they going to do about a bomb, right? And so that's what occurs on August 6th, and the world will never be the same. Little Boy is the name of that atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. That's what it looked like, and it is dropped um, from an airplane called the Enola Gay, named after the pilot Paul Tibbets' mother. And Paul Tibbets, you know, said he would have, he was sad that all those people died, but you know what he did was bigger than those people and bigger than him, and it was, you know, his job was to fly over Hiroshima and drop the bomb, and that's what he did. And so, got to be hard, but you know, after this bomb goes off, of course, we assume that Japan will surrender. Well, they don't exactly do that right away. But well, let's look at a few pictures of Hiroshima before we move on. If you can imagine, because of the heat, the flashing, the blinding flashing light, okay, the intensity of that bomb, it created permanent shadows. Okay, uh, it like burned the shadows into the ground or into stairways or the wall. I mean, unbelievable, right? This is a summer day in Japan, and so there are shadows created by the sun anyway. But when the bomb went off, it basically burned those shadows into the ground or onto the walls. And so you see the basically the fence posts, okay, burned in, a ladder, the outline of a ladder, of a crank wheel. I mean, this is just incredible. Think about this, okay? And so, you know, again, the world had never seen anything like this, and what in the heck's going on here? You know, the United States has a weapon that can do this. Ah, wow. Well, we assume that Japan will surrender, right? Why wouldn't they? You know, we dropped a bomb on them. It did crazy damage. A lot of people died, and of course, a lot of people will be affected that didn't die will be affected by radiation poisoning, develop cancer, you know, for years to come. And but they don't surrender. Japan says no, no, you know, they dropped a bomb on us, but you know, we still have an army. You know, what's left of us, we can fight, and we still have civilians who are willing to fight. And so the decision is made to drop a second bomb, and this time it's on Nagasaki, 3 days after Hiroshima. So on August 9th, 1945, Nagasaki gets nailed with a bomb, and about 80,000 people are killed. And you can see the damage, the devastation it did in places around the city. I mean, it just leveled everything. And so let me show you the picture of that bomb. That second bomb on Nagasaki is out of plutonium, and it is called Fat Man. You can see just by its shape. But you know, what can Japan do now, right? That's the feeling. Certainly they have to surrender, and you know, we will see that they do. And so, uh, 3 days apart, two atomic bombs, two cities leveled, and you know, around 220,000 initial deaths. And this is just on a scale, you know, beyond the imagination. So Japan does surrender. And you know what? Again, what can they do about another atomic bomb? I mean, they figured at this point, well, if they drop two on us in 3 days, uh, you know, basically 3 days apart, they probably have more. And so, you know, we have to give up. And so, for the first time in the Japanese people's lives, most of their lives, they heard the voice of their emperor, Hirohito, on the radio, and he said, you know, he told the Japanese people what had happened, of course, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Um, and he said we were going to surrender. And so VJ Day, Victory Over Japan Day, on August 15th, 1945. This touches off huge parties, celebrations here at home. The war is finally over. Nazi Germany has been defeated a few months earlier. Now Japan is defeated, and the world is now free from Adolf Hitler and from the Japanese imperial forces, and all is good, right? And so, talk about parties. That's what happens here because of the victory over Japan. Well, Japan officially surrenders because it takes time, when you're dealing with war, it takes some time to write up the paperwork and the official, surrender papers and get everybody together to sign them and stuff. But the official surrender takes place on the U.S. battleship, the USS Missouri. You can see a picture of it on the bottom there with all these sailors everywhere, right? And of course, on the deck, the top two pictures. That happens on September 2nd, 1945. And it takes place in Tokyo Bay. Our battleship was in Tokyo Bay. And the Japanese leadership signs the papers there, you can see. And General Douglas MacArthur, who was the head U.S. commander in the Pacific Theater, will oversee the proceedings of the surrender. And so, this is how it finally ends. And a war that some people thought probably would never end comes to a close on September 2nd, 1945.